Hello, it's a pleasure to be with you in this GreenMetric International Workshop in 2021. I thank Professor Hiri for the invitation. I'm Professor Patricia Iglecias from University of São Paulo, and I'm also the CEO of CETESB, the environmental company in the state of São Paulo. The idea is to talk a little bit about the implementation of the SDGs in the environmental company of São Paulo. The Brazilian Constitution was one of the first in the globe to recognize the individual right to a health and stable environment. So CETESB is the environmental company of the state, and we are responsible not only for license but also for the fiscalization in the state. We are a company with 53 years and a lot of work. So we see that the state of São Paulo is the most industrialized in our country. We look not only for license process, but also for chemical emergencies, pollution prevention and control, environmental quality, looking for the air, the water and soil monitoring, the risk analysis, and also the environmental training. We also work nowadays with the Sustainable Development Goals. That's an important target not only in Brazil but also in the other countries, and our idea is to take care in these SDGs, especially in some of them, like the water management. The ESG agenda is on the daily routine of our company, and the transversal nature of the theme means that we have several actions to work with. So our targets, taking this in our mind, is to develop a strategy which includes several environmental monitoring indicators, partnerships with the private sector, and the dissemination of the good practices related to our objectives. So as a result, we have, for example, the first MOU signed about the SDG implementation with the private sector. So you can see in these pictures, we signed last July, in the beginning of the month, with the Brazilian Association of the Industry of Alkali, Chlorine and Derivatives, aiming to establish voluntary targets for reducing environmental impacts due to the production process. As I told you, we are very close to the Clean Water and Sanitation SDG number 6, and the idea is to look for this issue of water availability that was linked to the first against pollution, and it's very, very important in our state. At CETESB, there are a substantial monitoring program in order to obtain a diagnosis of water quality through the assessment of compliance with environmental legislation and beyond, serving as an instrument of fundamental importance for the planning of environmental improvement actions. We have 18 laboratories inside CETESB, so we work with water, sediments, biota quality and rivers, reservoirs, coastal waters, soil and groundwater. As an example, during the pandemic, our labs have been contributing to environmental monitoring of SARS-CoV-2 in sewage, which is an activity that has been carried out as a supplementary tool for epidemiological surveillance of waterborne diseases, such as cholera, poliomyelitis, hepatitis, and this work began since 1970 of the last century. So, also related to SDG 6, we licensed 2 projects for public water supply, monitor surface, underground, and coastal water reservoirs, and report on the quality of beaches in the state. We also work in the POPs, the persistent organic pollutants. And the idea is taking this in consideration. We work as a regional center of Stockholm Convention. So the idea is that CETESB can look for all, not only in Brazil as a center, but for other countries in Caribbean region. As a regional center, we work with Latin America countries, Caribbean and Portuguese-speaking countries in the African region. And we could develop a lot of projects in cooperation with Japanese International Cooperation Agents, JICA, Swedish International Development Cooperation Agents, and also Global Environmental Facility, UN Environmental Program, United Nations Development Program. Our idea is also to work with UNEP, so to support for the implementation of Stockholm Convention Global Monitoring Plan for POPs. And nowadays, CETESB is considered as one of the 4 best laboratories in the world for POP analysis. Another important work that we have here is the Plastic Waste Partnership. So we have also active participation in the Basel Convention Partnership on Plastic Waste, leading one of the working groups on plastic collection, sorting and recycling, which demonstrates the growing concern in the marine environment and with the consequences of the accumulation of plastics. Another point that's very important for us is to work with the chemical emergencies. So we have a full-time staff working in the emergency response sector. The chemical emergency response at CETESB can work and can give assistance in situ assessment, substances identification and the risks. Also, we can give support for the institutions, requirement of suitable polluter actions, and we also look for the areas, for the monitoring of the areas like dangerous vapor concentration and also the body water use guidance, and see all the actions that we need to do in this area that can have substances and any problems with chemical events. Another point that we work is also in climate change, and this is quite important nowadays. It's recognized of the most important charge we have not only in Brazil but in other countries also. So as a subnational government, São Paulo decided to have the environmental agreement. That's a local agreement for our region, but with this agreement we can contribute to the Brazilian issues looking to the Paris Agreement. And the idea, we started with a special program in 1995, but nowadays we have this important voluntary agreement also. So the São Paulo Environmental Agreement was established in 2019, and nowadays we started with 5 signatories, but nowadays we have more than 200 involved on this initiative. And the idea is, you can see here a lot of companies and areas in the state of São Paulo. We have the representation of different areas of business in the state. And the idea of this is to have a voluntary agreement. And that's very important, because we can have in this a cooperation between the public area and the private sector. And this is inside the SDG. The SDG 17 is so clear that we need the cooperation between the public, the private sector, and also the academia. And that's the idea, to work all together in this important issue. Here we have some studies in low carbon that we had in the past, in partnership with the World Bank. Here a CO balance that we could use in support for this agreement also. And nowadays we work looking for the license system and looking to see the technological evolution in our activities, cooperating with the license evolution also. CETESB work is also in national and international training, and the idea is to have students. We have a school, Sensolato postgraduate school. So here you can see some of our students from different parts of the world. And here one course with African countries, Portuguese-speaking countries, just for you to see what we do inside our company. And thank you again for the opportunity and to be with you even virtually during the GreenMetric International Workshop.